Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Reade and McKeever family, I would like to welcome you all, family, friends, neighbours, esteemed work colleagues, loyal listeners, and dear radio friends, and thank you very much for being present here today. We would also like to welcome all of those who have joined us on video link from near and far. My name is Leanne Mullen. I'm a civil celebrant, and it is my privilege to lead this ceremony today. Together, we will create a peaceful and comforting space to honour the memory and celebrate the extraordinary life of Michael Reade, who died this week after a short illness, bravely born, aged just 58 years. Civil ceremonies have the benefit of being personalised to reflect the life we are here to celebrate, and to involve the family in the personalisation of same. This ceremony today has been planned with much love and to a large extent by Michael himself, along with Sandra, Luke, and all of the family. The opening music of this ceremony this morning was very carefully arranged by Michael, who tenderly compiled these tracks in dedication to those special people in his life and appropriate to his impending death. Michael died on Monday, and it is with great sadness that we said goodbye to Michael on Tuesday, when his remains were brought to the Royal College of Surgeons Ireland, as per his generous request. But today we will remember and celebrate Michael, and in doing so we will not only feel gratitude for being part of his journey in life, but also for his part in our life's journey. Each person here present today is here because they have shared that journey in some way. And so to honour Michael, let us take a few moments of silence to recall those particular experiences and treasured moments that will dwell in our memory bank with love. May these memories be a source of comfort of strength to you now and in the future. On behalf of all here present, I would like to extend my heartfelt condolences to all of Michael's family and friends, his beloved wife Sandra and son Luke, sister Antoinette, brothers Damian, Sean and Martin, in-laws Susan, Patricia, Margaret, Shirley, Tommy, Len, Trish, Steve, Audrey and Robin, extended family, close friends, and not to forget his loyal canine companion, Ayla. Michael is predeceased by his parents, Ronnie and Rose, brother, baby Ronnie, and in recent years, his good friend, Mark Looney. We are now going to invite some family and friends to make a presentation of momentos that reflect the amazing life that Michael lived. We will call Sandra, Luke, Sean, Maggie, Chris, Derek, Mandy, Trish, Steve, Audrey, Patricia, Dave, Tommy, Len, and Bjarna. First off, we have Sandra, Michael's wife, and she brings up a photograph of Mick. Second, we have a book which Michael's son Luke brings up. It's called Reclaiming the European Street by Michael D. Higgins. President Higgins sent this signed book along with a letter to a very proud Michael when he was ill, and the family have now asked me to read you a copy of this letter. Dear Michael, I was deeply saddened to learn of your illness and wanted to write to you personally during this difficult time. I understand how challenging this must be, but I hope you are finding moments of peace and comfort with your loved ones around you. Margaret na Éireann, may I thank you for your remarkable contribution to local radio over the past 43 years, for all you have done for Louth and Meath and for the people whose lives you have touched through your work. You have been such an important point of connection and community spirit on Lmfm, an invaluable source of information for the local people of Louth and Meath, but also a giving voice to its people, providing them with a platform to discuss issues of regional, national and indeed international interest, playing a vital role in building bridges between people. Yours is a deeply valued contribution to local broadcasting in Ireland, in making a space for voices to be heard, for issues to be explored, and for moments of reflection, music, and laughter to be shared. The enduring legacy you have created is one of connection, empathy, and community spirit, qualities that define the very best of Irish life, a legacy that you will no doubt continue to inspire future generations of broadcasters in Louth, Meath, and beyond. Michael, as you navigate this difficult journey, I hope that you find peace and comfort, and that you are surrounded by love and care from those closest to you. Please know that you are in my thoughts, and indeed in the thoughts of so many across Ireland whose lives have been enriched by your work. May I wish you strength, peace, and every comfort in the days ahead. With heartfelt gratitude, Lebuika Socree, yours sincerely, Michael D. Higgins. Next up, we have Sean, who brings us a Happy Hut memento. Michael's favourite place in the world was the hippie hut at the back of their house, which is adorned by numerous stickers and mementos of their travels and messages penned by friends. Michael and Sandra built this lean-to with their own hands. It was a very special place where they and friends sat at night as the fairy lights twinkled and songs were sung and many chats happened. A special, relaxing and enchanting place that is loved by all who encounter it. And when Michael was in hospital, he dreamed of getting home to his beloved hippie hut, where he had spent many happy hours with friends and family during his illness. Number 4, we have Maggie, who brings us the IMRO Award. Awarded to Michael on the 4th of October for his Current Affairs programme, this Gold Award is the Oscars of Irish radio. It is a huge achievement by Michael for the best current affairs programme and local and regional. Michael was always a campaigner fighting for the underdog. He publicised issues that other broadcasters might have avoided. Maggie Maguire, researcher on his programme, accepted this on Michael's behalf. Number 5, with Chris, we have Michael's headphone and mic. Michael spent 21 years in Lmfm in their anchor programme, The Michael Reade Show. It was a tough programme to produce and present for such a long time, with huge preparation essential. Number 6 is Mandy and Derek, who present the CVSN Victim Award, Child Victim Survivor Network Recognition of Excellence Award 2024 for services to broadcast journalism. This unique award was a token of their gratitude and recognition of his tremendous courage and incomparable commitment to highlighting human rights and justice in society. It was intended that this very special award was to be displayed in the Lmfm building. Number 7, we have the Lord Mayor Scroll for Michael, which was received on the 10th of May 2024 and is now being presented by Trish. in recognition of a radio broadcasting career unequivocal in its support of all human rights abuse victims, including those who have experienced child sexual abuse. This award was proudly accepted by Michael and Sandra in the Mansion House. Number 8 is the Lord Mayor Scroll for Lmfm, and this is brought to us by Steve. In recognition of the platform Lmfm has provided for human rights abuse victims, including those who have experienced child sexual abuse. This was presented to Michael for Lmfm to display. Number 9, Audrey has Ayla's lead. Ayla, often referred to lovingly as the White Tornado, had added much joy to Michael and Sandra's life, and their lives were all the richer for her lively nature. Number 10 is Patricia bringing flowers. Anyone who has been to Michael and Sandra's home will immediately know how much they love their garden. An oasis in Drogheda town. Banana trees flourish, giving a tropical flavour. Potatoes and vegetables are grown, and it is a haven that they escape to at every opportunity. "11, the Beat Club t-shirt. This bespoke t-shirt, presented by Dave, depicts the era of the Loon Mobile with Michael standing on the roof, surfing on a lilo. A DJ from an early age, Michael has loved music all his life, and during his illness, music still blasting out of his speakers at all times, even in hospital. It always gave him comfort. "12 seagull photos are brought to us by Tommy and Len. Anyone who listened to Michael's show will know of his support for seagulls. It's been a controversial issue on his show, and he got great enjoyment from voicing his support for them. At 13, we have Bjarne, brings us the Danish sweets, remembering the years that Michael spent in his beloved Copenhagen, where he worked in radio and made some wonderful lifelong friends. And last, at 14, we have the peace symbol, brought to us by Luke. Of huge importance in Michael's life, peace, love and harmony were the cornerstones of his beliefs. He longed for a world where people could live together and embrace their neighbours with welcoming arms, regardless of colour or creed. In recent times, the rise of the far right and fascism in Ireland and unwelcoming nature of a small but vocal minority was an issue that disturbed him. Abroad, the genocide in Palestine weighed heavily on his heart, and he was deeply concerned about the violence and suffering inflicted on the people of Gaza. Michael was born in 1966 in Temple Bar to parents Ronnie and Rose. He grew up in Dolphin's Barn in Green Hills, Dublin, alongside his siblings Antoinette, Damian, Sean and Martin. Michael always loved music and started DJing 43 years ago on pirate radio stations in Dublin. In the 1980s, he presented rock music shows on stations like Radio City, Radio Annabelle, and Capital FM, Capital Radio. He started his own nightclub playing rock music when he was just 18. The Beat Club was based in the Ivy Rooms Hotel in Parnell Street. The success of the Beat Club prompted the hotel to establish rock venue Fibber McGee's 3 years later when Michael had moved abroad to live in Denmark. While there, Michael worked for XFM in Copenhagen after being headhunted as an English-speaking broadcaster. On return to Ireland, Michael worked for Midlands 103 in Tullamore, East Coast Radio in Wicklow, Tip FM in Tipperary, and before finally joining Lmfm in 2003. A distinctly familiar voice, heard every weekday morning, the Michael Reade Show on Lmfm radio is one of the most listened to radio programmes across Louth and Meath, and is part of the daily routine for many people who use it as a source of news, information, discussion, and debate. Earlier this month, Michael won gold at the IMRO Radio Awards for Best Current Affairs Programme on Local Radio, an achievement Michael and his family were exceptionally proud of. Michael was held in very high esteem, not only by his colleagues and listeners alike, but also further afield. As we heard on announcing his illness last month, he received a letter from President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, thanking him for a contribution to local radio and commending him for giving a voice to people, a platform to issues, and playing a vital role in the building of bridges. On Taoiseach, Simon Harris also wrote with well wishes and thanked Michael for his contributions to the country throughout his broadcasting career. These and the thousands of well wishes received from loyal listeners brought Michael much joy and pride, and his family are extremely comforted by the fact that Michael got to see for himself the appreciation, the love, and the result of his dedication to his job. We pause now to invite Pat O'Shaughnessy and Damian O'Farrell to say a few words. We also invite Peter to play the cello. Peter is a next-door neighbour of Michael and Sandra, who have always enjoyed his music when they've had the privilege of hearing him practice from time to time.
First of all, I'd like to say to Sandra and Luke and the family that I'm absolutely honoured to be up here and that you asked me to say a few words on his behalf. When I look out at you all, I had a few words scripted, but I'm going to ad-lib it because, as usual, even in his absence, Michael has managed to upstage me. That was just the talent that he had, and he's given us a wonderful pictorial walk through his life with all of the pictures that you've seen up here in his private life, and I'll get to that in a moment. And then in his radio life, all of those awards for giving the voice to those people that he loved to champion, people without a voice. He was always there for them. He was tenacious. He had massive integrity when it came to those issues. And when he got those rewards, he actually felt that they weren't for him, that they were for the people that he spoke on behalf of. And I think when you see that there were so many over that wonderful career that he had, it's a testament to what he did and to how he did give that voice a recognition. And for me, I met Mike 21 years ago. He was only 37 years of age. He was coming to a new phase in his life. He wasn't quite sure what the journey was going to be, but he embraced it as he always did, and we hit it off together. We had that little bond, that little connection. My eldest boy and his son Luke, well, there was 2 years between them, and we hit it off, and he had this little CND peace badge on him, and I said, oh yeah, I think I know what I'm dealing with here, all right. And then when we chatted, our music tastes were quite similar. And then as we went through life, we always would discuss the different milestones that we had. But at the back of it all was always his love for radio and his passion. And his passion for his music, his passion for those that he represented, his absolute non-tolerance of spin and waffle. And indeed, anybody who came on his programme who tried to spin and waffle, well, they felt the teeth of Michael Reade. I will miss him. There is no doubt about it. Many people have asked me on my travels out and about as I cover the whole northeast of this country, what's Michael Reade really like? Well, you can see what he's like. And they would think that I was bluffing when I would say, he's a great character, he's very funny, he's very witty. And they say, not a chance, that guy couldn't be witty, that guy couldn't be funny. It was extraordinary how he could park that suited clothes and take it off when he left that studio, put those issues to one side and come back to his beloved family, because that's where Michael was most at home. And I think of you today, that massive void in all of our lives, but in the radio world, but particularly for yourselves. It's just a huge chasm that he has left behind. And people have said to me on many occasions since this has happened, what do you think Michael's legacy will be? And as well as all the wonderful memories that he has given us, his legacy will be that colossus of a programme that he has built along with the team. You hear him referencing Maggie many times and Chris. That huge programme that gives a voice to those that need it. That huge programme that doesn't suffer fools. That huge programme that the politicians fear when they go on there, because they know they're going to have to tell the truth. They know they're going to have to be across their brief. That, for me, is the legacy that he has built over 21 years. And if I could just finish, the only piece of the script that I will use is that if I can use the lines from a poem that say, and from the grave the seeds of barley grew. And our seeds of barley will be the fantastic memories that he has given us. The joy that those memories and those pictures will bring us in the future. Michael, it's been my honour. You were my great friend. I will miss you. You're a giant among broadcasters. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's nearly afternoon. I missed the message about the colourful clothing, so apologies for that. And I also missed the memo about the two fingers, the family message. I wasn't aware of that. Damian O'Farrell is my name. I'm a very good friend of Michael and Sandra's and Luke's, and they asked me along. Well, Michael asked me along here, really. I spoke to him a little while ago, and it's a big privilege for me, and it's quite emotional. It's quite emotional looking at the film there, and he's not with us anymore. But he asked me particularly to send a message from him. He sent a message on his radio show last week, but that wasn't live, and this is live, and he asked me to send this message. And I'm not here. The one thing he told me to do was, he said to me, and that's why I have notes here, because he's been quite specific. I'm not here to tell everyone how fantastic Michael was. I'm not here to do that. Maybe Luke will do that later. I'm not here to do that. I'm here for one reason. He spoke with me a couple of weeks ago. He had a program on his very last show, and the reason he made the last show really was for two reasons. He wanted to say goodbye to his his loyal listeners. That was the main reason. But he also wanted to send a message, and he wanted to talk about abuse. He revealed his personal abuse, that he was a survivor, and I'm a survivor too. And he wanted to reveal that, and he wanted to talk about on the programme about the hypocrisy of politicians generally. Not all politicians. There's some good ones around, but he wanted to talk about that as well, and he mentioned it on the radio show, and he wanted me to come here to bring that message again and to explain some of the background and to bring that message again. So how I met Michael, I appeared on a primetime programme about 18 months ago. It was about the litigation strategy of the Christian Brother Order, and he asked me to appear on his show the next day, which I did. And we had a campaign then. It was about the freedom of Drogheda, and he wanted to become involved. And he understood what the campaign was about. That the order had blocked the pathways to justice for victims. They had blocked the pathways the leadership had, and he wanted to give symbolic justice. It's a human rights term. It's a real term. It's real, and he wanted to try and deliver that with us. He knew what we were trying to do. And on his programme, he mentioned, I'm just reading out exactly what he said on his programme last. He made this programme before he died, but it was to be put out on the day after he died, you know. And so it was very real to him. And he's been broadcasting since he's 43 years, and he just really had one message, saying goodbye to the listeners. And the second was this. So he had a real feeling of disappointment in Irish politics. He said there was a lack of honesty in what people are saying. Some people are willing to sell their souls for politics. Politicians and media in the Drogheda area, this is another point that he made, politicians and media in the Drogheda area who will be reporting on the need for an inquiry into the Michael Shine and day schools. They're looking for an inquiry in that, and rightly that they should. And those politicians will be saying, those people at the time, they didn't listen to the victims. They should have listened to the victims, but they didn't listen to the victims. So that's what he was saying. That's going on at the moment. And then in the show, Michael revealed to his listeners his own rape. He was raped as a child, a 7 or 8-year-old. And how the effects were enduring on his life. And it scarred his soul. It scarred his soul. Then Michael spoke about myself coming to Drogheda. I came about a year and a half previous with the campaign, and I was representing victims of sexual abuse, and I was looking for support from politicians, looking for support from Michael, which he gave. And he said on air in his last show, that he will never understand what happened to the reception that we received. He will never understand. And it shouldn't have happened. The politicians, they didn't have the time to talk to us, to let us explain why we came to Drogheda for support. Again, Michael, this is all Michael's words. They just didn't listen. They just didn't listen. And they should be examining their consciences today. When Michael spoke to me about today, he just couldn't believe the treatment we received. When he wanted me to come up here to talk, he was telling me, I just couldn't believe the reception that you received from elected people. I just couldn't believe it. There was abusive texts, abusive messages. There was victim blaming in the print and social media. You were ignored, you were misrepresented. An organisation that should have been there for rape victims was not permitted to help you, was not permitted to support you. And he was just so hurt. He was so hurt that his last programme was supposed to be about his listeners. He didn't talk about his family. That was private, but he wanted to share with his listeners about his own abuse. And then he was so hurt then about that he brought that in as well. That this was happening on his patch in front of his listeners, the hypocrisy that was going around. Michael won many awards for his work. He was shortlisted for the Law Society Social Media Award, Social Justice Award last year, and it was that was for his work on the freedom of Drogheda. The IMRO Award over there was also the entry that he put into the competition was his work on the freedom of Drogheda as well. He was very proud of that. This is his. This he told me to tell you all was his most. He was most proud of this. This was his fellow brothers and abuse victims. They brought him down to the Mansion House, and the Lord Mayor presented him with this. The Lord Mayor of Dublin presented him with this. And I just want to read. Our pathways to justice blocked. We campaign for symbolic justice. Only we knew how difficult this was to achieve, as we were unjustly treated by elected representatives and officials alike. Only we know who single-handedly made it possible. That was the rescinding of the freedom. Only we know who single-handedly made it possible, and that was Michael Reade. And on behalf of all those victims, some of these victims were tortured, they were raped, they were whipped. And the reception they got in this town was he just couldn't believe it. So this is his most important, and I just want to thank the family for letting me. That's all he wanted me to say, and everything I've said here, he was very precise of what I had to say, and I didn't go around. I just stuck to what he wanted me to say, and I've said it. And just lastly, before I go, I've spent some time with Michael in the last few weeks, and the family, as you can see, it's very obvious there in the pictures. He's very, very family orientated, and there's a lot of love in Michael's house, in Sandra's house, in Luke's house. So long may that continue, and I wish you all long and healthy lives. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
The name Michael Reade, it is fair to say, is infamous in the Northeast. The Gold IMRO winning broadcaster who has been speaking to us in our kitchens, our cars and our workplaces for the past 21 years feels like a friend to many of us. Michael Reade, the broadcaster, was described by those who sat across from him to debate issues as fair, courteous and respectful. Michael had a deep sense of justice and a care for those who were vulnerable. He had very strong beliefs and he stood by, and as mentioned in his posthumous interview on Lmfm this week, he mentioned that he felt that perhaps he could influence the greater good. Maybe without knowing it, Michael was actually the first influencer of his generation. While some debates could become quite heated, quite often Michael shared a common ground with those who partook on his shows. This led to many budding friendships and work collaborations on issues of national and international importance that were close to Michael's heart. When Michael learned of his illness very quickly, he accepted his fate. One could be forgiven if they pondered the reasons of why and how, tormented themselves with the what-ifs, and indulged in a bout of self-pity, but not Michael. In his own words, instead of arguing with the diagnosis, he decided to surround himself with love and positive vibrations. Michael started to contact people, old friends, current friends. He sent messages, he started conversations, and he threw a party. A living wake, he called it. 240 of his family, friends and acquaintances met up in the Morgue pub on the 5th of October. There was crack, conversations, music, tears, and a lot of love and joy in the room that day. Michael had more that he wanted to do. He wanted to help the Irish Cancer Society, and talks were in process. He also wanted to use his experience to advocate the HSC, the excellent work of the medical teams, and to highlight the shortage of resources in the HSC. But unfortunately, time did not allow for Michael to complete these selfless acts of making the world a better place. This is a prime example of the man that Michael Reade was, selfless and giving until the very end. There is a poem that the family have asked me to read, The Dash, and we feel this represents Michael so well. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was that dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more. The love, the people in our lives like we've never loved before. And if we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? We now invite Father Iggy O'Donovan to say a few words, and following that we will have a message from Simon, who lives in Qatar.
Good morning, or afternoon now, and having just listened to some of the contributions and in the past few minutes, they're hard acts to follow, and something did cross my mind looking at Michael and pictures and that magnificent life well lived, and then some of the detail of what we heard in the last few moments and indeed in his final broadcast. I said, when looking at a picture, can anybody ever fully read the heart of another human being. Isn't there always a secret of some sort that can be there, that can never be read in a photograph, that very few will even know existed? So that did cross my mind, listening there. It's 11 years since I left Drogheda, left it in a rather hurry in the end. And a good friend of mine throughout my time here was Michael Reade. I came here in 2006. For the second time. I had been here in my younger days. And in the first few weeks, we had a major controversy to do with the church. And celebration of a Eucharist, you might say, so what? It counted for a lot in those days, and one of the reasons why I'm no longer in Drogheda, for example, because it caused, quote unquote, scandal. But I do remember the enormous support from Michael, and that will always stay with me. Some weeks ago, he phoned me and told me the news, and I had hoped to meet him in the meantime, but circumstances planned against it, and we didn't meet again. I'll be very brief just for a couple of moments. There's a lot has been said, but it was true that at one time down in Shop Street, some of us had a sort of a foolish dream. I'm not talking just myself, part of the Drogheda community. There were musicians and thinkers and hangers-on and comers and goers of all sorts. And sort of the vision we had was that the Christian message could be reconciled with modernity. This was the belief, that it could be reconciled with modernity. And we gave it a go. Look, we may not have succeeded. Michael was a great supporter of us in that. We may not have succeeded. We probably failed. But not to have tried at all would have been definitely to fail. So, after I left Drogheda in 2013, I kept in touch some ways still, because regularly my phone would ring, usually in the early morning, more often than not Maggie Maguire or Marie Kearns. Would you say a few words to Michael on this topic or that topic? Now, it came up here a little earlier how politicians shivered going into the studio or talking to Michael. Well, I can assure you clergymen shivered. And often I was one of the few who was willing to face the ordeal. A bit ironically, because my ordeal was coming from our own side. But what I will say is that throughout the years, Michael gave a constituency to Christianity and to believers and to hangers-on that they otherwise would not have got. He did a hell of a lot for that Christian message in his own way through the broadcasting medium, and I can vouch for that. I achieved more through his airwaves than I did through anything I said off a pulpit in Shop Street or elsewhere. So I say that to him. I finish with a little reflection. And the gifts which we appeared here, they reflect the various aspects of Michael's life, which are eclectic and mixed. And I love those pictures. I recognize Italy there in the background because I always saw Italia as my seconda patria, my second home. The little piece I have is called Remember Me, which I dedicate to Michael. And I think he was never a man who was, shall we say, corrupted with piety in the traditional sense of the term, but he was well corrupted with deep spiritual feelings in the real sense of the term. So remember me. Do not look for me among the cold headstones of a November graveyard. Do not imagine that I live some disembodied and empty life, drifting helplessly in and out of meaning. Do not think I'm caught in some unworldly chamber between then and now, between there and here. Don't pity me as if only length of days is what makes life important. Do not believe that all that matters is to live now. Don't worry for me. I am at peace. I've had my life, short and limited though life be. I'm with my Lord, whatever you conceive him to be. Remember me. Give me my place at your table. Claim me as yours. Own my life. Think of me as you pass this road. Think of me as you see the warm light flicker on a cold winter night. Think of me in warm, happy colours. Think of me in indigo and magenta and russet and yellow. Think of me in that shaft of summer sunshine that suddenly interrupts a dark day. Think of me in a flowing meadow or on a tranquil sea, or when the morning sun announces a new day. Think of me when you see your first daffodil trumpeting a new beginning. Think of me that spring day when the first swallow arrives to bless another year. Think of me when a lark sings, even a seagull. Think of me every time you see a candle flickering in a church. Think of me at peace with myself, nestling in the palm of his hand, whatever you conceive him to be. I am daughter and I am son. I am brother and sister. I am yours, you are of mine. One day we shall meet again in a place not where death ends, but where life begins. Rest in peace, old friend.
Hello there, everyone. I'm really sorry I can't be with you all today to honour our dear friend Mick. I am very grateful, though, to have had the chance to hang out with Mick on 3 occasions over the last few weeks, and I will cherish those moments forever. In fact, I can still hear his explosive laugh, you know. He's such a great laugh, he sounds so good, and he was a fun man, fun times. So, I had the privilege of meeting Mick 33 years ago. I was just 12 years old, and he was 15. Now, 3 years age difference doesn't seem like a huge amount now that now that I'm an alpha. But back then, 3 years is vast, a 15-year-old hanging out with a 12-year-old. But Mick and his partner in crime, Mark Looney, they took this young stray in and they taught me about music. They taught me about music appreciation. Mark taught me how to play guitar, and Mick taught me about his vast knowledge of all sorts of genres of music, which I, really was grateful for and stayed with me all my life. And I suppose you could say that, well, I looked up to both of them, They were my rock and roll heroes, Mick and Mark, for sure, and they'll be greatly missed. So when I was 15, Mark and Mick started this club called the Beat Club, Dublin's premier rock venue. And of course, I was only a kid of 15, so one of the first times it was on, I managed to be able to convince my mother to allow me to go into town. I was, of course, smashed. So the lads agreed that I could get in for free and they'd buy me a few pints if I'd help them clean up and do a few odd jobs. But most importantly, my job was to carry Mick's vinyl records home. So these are big and they're heavy, So the first night I go there, I have a few shandies, maybe a few shandies too many, and I lose my wallet. So I lose my wallet and I'm walking down O'Connell Street with these huge bags of vinyls. And I think it was a 10-kilometre walk, I know that, because it took me over 2 hours to get home. Now, the upside of that was I got to hang on to those records for a full week and listen to them over and over and over again. I mean, some of it was utter crap, like the Incredible String Band. We didn't always agree on our musical tastes. But there's one thing was that Mick had a very vast knowledge of every musical genre. And it was something that he helped me to learn too. So Mick himself, he was both courageous and kind, and that's a rare combination. It's kind of this strength wrapped in gentleness, I guess, is probably the way only I could describe it. And he was the type of person who stood firm in his beliefs, but he always extended compassion and understanding to others around him, He tried to look at all sides of the story, I suppose. And as a radio presenter, that really, really came out, should I say, journalist, national award winner and radio presenter. I think he was a presenter for over nearly 30 years. But he was given this platform and he really respected having that platform and he used it to make a real difference. At least that was my experience of it. His voice was powerful, but not because it was loud, but because it was authentic. He was a very authentic human being. And, Mick spoke with purpose and he spoke for those who needed it most. And I watched as his dedication to human rights and his stance against fashion over the last, few years in particular, I believe that all of those things help him to contribute to making the world a better place. And Mick, certainly the world's a better place with you, my friend. Mick's dedication to justice and humanity didn't go unnoticed, as you all know. Some of you may know, I guess, but recently both the President of Ireland and Taoiseach personally wrote to me to thank him for his invaluable contribution to Irish society. Now that's a pretty rare thing, and it made me hugely proud to sit beside Mick in his hospital bed and read this letter from the President of Ireland. I mean, it was quite moving for me, and I know Mick was he was very grateful to receive those letters. So, for me, Mick's legacy is one of courage and compassion. The way he handled these last few weeks of his life is just remarkable. I mean, he's some man for one man, as they say. And his life will continue to inspire me. So, though his physical presence may longer be with us, his spirit remains, that's for sure. So, Mick, though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, and complete. Slán leat a cara mór, agus scéalaí iontach.
Most of us here know Michael Reade, the broadcaster and friend. But there was another full dimension to Michael, the family man. Husband, father, brother, brother-in-law, the soulmate of Sandra. They met here in Drogheda in 2007 and married in 2010, and their lives have been intertwined ever since. In Sandra's own words, they were inseparable, joined at the hip, and brought so much joy to each other's lives. Family members have informed me that I have never seen Michael so happy as he had been for the past 17 years with Sandra by his side. And in turn, Sandra has blossomed in the light of Michael's love. His love for his son Luke was immense and unwavering. Luke has grown up to be a fantastic young man with the support of his father, who may not share his exact taste in music or clothes, but shares his beliefs and values. Luke could not be any prouder of his father. He is in awe at the outpouring of love that his dad has received from so many people. Michael enjoyed bringing joy to those in his life. He appreciated spending time at home with Sandra and Ayla, where, if they were lucky, they could hear the strains of Peter's cello as he practiced. He also enjoyed the crack and the fun. He was the party starter, the entertainment, the first one up to dance, and he was also open to sampling a few cocktails. He was giving, empathic. He showed a depth of caring to his extended family and was the one that you could rely on. He was extremely humble. He was loved by all who knew him, and he will be dearly missed. And I ask you all to hold Michael's family in your thoughts and help them along this journey of great loss. We now invite Michael's sister, Antoinette, sister-in-law, Margaret, with the help of Patricia and Susan, and son Luke to say a few words. We will also invite Liam, who is a close family friend and sings with St. Peter's Male Voice Choir, and he will sing today, Blowing in the Wind.
Unlike my brother, I'm not a presenter. When I had to speak at my mum's funeral, he was my wingman, and I know today he's here to support us all. So many of you are here today for your friend Mick, and over the past few weeks I've gotten to know the public persona of Michael Reade. But to us, he was just our Michael. Growing up, our home was very musical, so it's not surprising that music played such a big part in Michael's life. He was an excellent football player, a lot of people don't know that, but an injury prevented him from playing, and he threw himself into the music. His DJ days really started as a kid with our record player on the living room floor, pretending to host shows with his pals. For as long as I can remember, Michael has been on the radio, and he tried to get everyone involved in his musical escapades. He had Sean create a soundbite, Welcome to the Mike Reade Show, at a very young age, and Sean was thrilled when Michael told him his baby voice was the star of the show. Damian was recruited to stand in Dublin city centre and distribute flyers for his rock club, and our house was full of these Beat Club flyers. Our Michael was otherwise affectionately known as the hippie. He had long hair, a 70s moustache, suede coat and desert boots, and he didn't walk, he had a bounce, and was all very too cool for school. He made many of his friends when living in Greenhills and going to school in the comp. And there were a few raised curtains and raised eyebrows when his friends pulled up outside our house in a very old Citroen car, emblazoned with very bad paintings of the word peace and signs of CND signs. Greenhills was only part of Michael's journey. He started out living in Temple Bar on Rubin Street before living in Greenhills, and he also spent many years in Copenhagen and Tullamore before moving to Drogheda. We all took trips to Copenhagen to visit him and had great adventures and memories. And I would say, based on all the photographs, Michael's love of travel has definitely been a huge inspiration in my life. As a family, the last 5 years have been incredibly difficult. We lost our mum and dad, and Michael also lost his best friend, Mark Looney. Michael loved my mum and dad, and they loved him dearly. And when my dad got dementia, Michael didn't think twice about travelling from Drogheda to Leixlip pretty much every day to visit him, even though a lot of the time my dad didn't even recognise him. Michael would sit with him for hours or take him for a drive and was incredibly patient with him. In a similar way, when our mum got cancer, he was there with her every step of the way. He did all the research into her illness, he kept us informed and educated, and quite often he parked his own sadness to make sure the rest of us were okay. My mum always said, Michael just loves family, and he did. He was in charge of organising family dinners and our annual Christmas night, and he loved nothing better than being surrounded by family, including his nieces and nephews, aunts, uncles and cousins. And of course, he was an amazing dad, and Luke was included in everything he did, building an incredible relationship with him. I could talk and give loads of stories, but I'm going to finish with a summary of the Michael I know, starting with M. M is without doubt for music, his passion, and a lot of his life, love and relationships revolved around it. His memory will live on in the music he shared with his family and others. I is for impact. We are so incredibly proud of our brother. To us, he was just our Michael, so it's really heartwarming to hear all the incredible stories of the voice he gave to others, and just how instrumental he has been in changes that are right and just. C is for his compassionate and caring nature. A true family man, he cared so much for everyone. H, I was going to go with hippie, but H really is for his humour. He loved a good laugh and would think nothing of embarrassing himself in public by shouting across a room, singing out loud, or doing some silly dance. The objective, of course, was to embarrass those with him and ultimately make them laugh. And he was the one who would laugh hardest. A is for his achievements. Our Michael wasn't one to brag, so hearing about the various awards he won, the letters from the President, Taoiseach and Taoiseach, have been very, very special, and it's really lovely to know that he also heard all of that recognition. E, well, E really is Michael's presenting area, so he was extremely eloquent, empathetic and endearing. For those who endured tough interviews, he may have been a little bit exasperating, And to those people, I'd just like to say, try having an argument with him over the dinner table. But he was always easygoing, enthusiastic, and very well educated in every topic he covered. And finally, Elle, larger than life and living life to the fullest. If the past few weeks have taught me anything, it is to live life to the fullest. Do those bucket list items and don't sweat the small stuff. When the opportunity of doing his bucket list items was taken from him, Michael still found a way to find good moments. And L, of course, is also for love. The love he had for his family, his friends, his wife and soulmate, Sandra, and of course, his amazing son, Luke. Michael, you loved, you have been loved. We will love you forever and miss you every day. Peace, love, and good vibrations. Thank you.
So we are Sandra's family, Margaret, Susan and Patricia. It was 2007. My mother had just died unexpectedly. Our baby sister, Sandra, in the midst of our grief and organising the wake, informed us that there was a man in her life. And not only that, but she needed him with her throughout this time. Raised eyebrows. And so we met Michael, or Mick to us. What we saw was not a big name from local radio. Mick was quiet, and very quickly we realised our guardian angel had arrived. He did our shopping, emptied his house of cups, mugs, plates, etc. He hung back as family and friends came to pay their respects, quiet but alert in the background and never far from Sandra. In 2010, Sandra, who had vowed never to marry, married the love of her life. They couldn't bear to be apart. They really were like peas in a pod. By that time, Mick had become an integral part of our family, and we have so many memories of get-togethers and holidays. Mick was complex, deep, with strong social values. He shunned the spotlight and was happy to be as anonymous as possible. Generous to a fault, looking out for the underdog, stopping to talk to people on their uppers and giving generously to them. Marching for Palestine, a great Ukraine supporter, and as we all know, he was a staunch supporter of victims of child sexual abuse. Quietly using his name to help people, never looking for thanks. That was our Mick. It's safe to say that since Mick became part of our family, we've had more fun, done more things than we would ever have imagined doing, and we've possibly had more hangovers. No, definitely more hangovers. He brought us Luke, and it warms our hearts to see Luke and Sandra together, such closeness and love. Mick may have left our family circle, but Luke will always be part of it. Mick's attitude to his terminal diagnosis was quite profound. While we around him struggled to take in the enormity of what was happening, the sorrow of seeing our family was once again being pulled apart. Mick gathered us all around him to spend time with him and with Sandra, to be strong and positive, to make the best of the time he had. I learned from him during this time, instead of railing against his life being cut so short at 58 years of age, he immediately understood that this was a battle he couldn't win, and so he decided that he would not waste time trying to make it otherwise. I would like to think that I could be that strong. I doubt it very much, though. Memories are precious things, and we have many of those that we will treasure, like dancing on coffee tables, doing his dance, which really is a twirl with his finger on his head, stuffing his mouth with tissues to take off Marlon Brando, nights in the famous hippie hut, the fabulous holidays we had together in places we would never have seen otherwise, music festivals and camping, and music, always music. Mick decided that he would create the ultimate memory, a living wake. And boy, did he do just that with the help of friends. In the aptly named pub called the Morgue, family and friends crammed in to say hello, chat over fond memories, and celebrate a life well lived. It was a day that I think all who attended will never forget. It was a day of love and friendship, and so many hugs and so many tears. As well as we thought we knew Mick, his attitude to his terminal diagnosis was something we didn't expect. We saw a gentleness and saw his pure goodness during that time. How he endured his illness, which wasn't easy. How small things gave him joy. How he appreciated everything that was done for him. Anyone who knows someone who's had pancreatic cancer knows it's not an easy journey. But it's a journey that's made more doable when you have someone you love at your side all the time. I saw how Mick's day brightened up when Sandra was there, how he depended on her and how she wanted nothing more than to be with him, looking after him, minding him. It was very fitting that Mick died in Sandra's arms. Sandra would like to thank so many people, too many to name. The staff of Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital who took such good care of Michael. Fergal Fagan, who cared so much that he came to the house when Michael came home for the last time on Monday. Thomas Curtis has been a huge help to the family and as always organises and makes things easy for us. We really depend on you, Thomas. Good neighbours who cooked, shopped and walked the dog, etc. Good friends and family who stayed close during this time, though, truth be told, it was an honour to travel with Mick on his often difficult journey. And finally, a huge thanks to St. Dom. Now, you may wonder who that is, but I think that Professor Dominic O Brannigan will recognise himself and know just how much the mutual respect that they had for each other in Michael's professional capacity had carried over into the wonderful relationship they had during his illness. Sandra can never express enough gratitude to Dominic for the personal interest and exceptional care that he took in Michael towards the end of his life. And to finish off, I came across these words. I thought they were really quite apt, written by Hunter S. Thompson. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride. What a ride, Mick."
What a ride.
Good afternoon. As I was introduced as a friend of the family, many's a time we had a sing-song with Mick and Sandra and the rest of the family. And when asked by Sandra last Monday evening, would I be willing to sing a song for Mick, I said I'd be honoured. And I think this song is more fitting for this man who's led a life of great grandeur, you could say. And Sandra said there was a present for Mick, but he didn't get it in time. And this is the man that Sandra wants. She wants me to wear this for Mick this evening, and I'm going to do that now. Mick would have said I wasn't appropriately dressed, so now I am. But this song, join in if you want. Everyone knows it. And I think the song is just sums up Mick. How many roads must a man walk down before he's called a man? And how many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it's washed to the sea? And how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many ears must one man have before he hears the people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? Well, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Before today, some of you would have only known of Michael Reade, the broadcaster. But over this ceremony, I hope you've got a good idea of who Michael Reade, the friend and the family man, was. Now I'd like to tell you about Michael Reade, the dad. My dad was the most supportive dad you could ask for. No matter what I did, he was always proud of me, and he never let me forget it. I always knew he was there for me. He never gave me a reason to doubt it. When I was 3, my mum and dad separated. While I lived with my mum, I would spend every second weekend with my dad, and he would call me every evening without fail. He always wanted to know what I got up to and how my day was. The first time anything changed with these calls was when I was around 10 or 11. Up to this point, we used to finish every call in the same way by saying, "Night, night, I love you, talk to you tomorrow. Bye, 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 bye." At this age, I was too embarrassed to say I loved my dad in front of some of my friends. So sometimes, depending on who was around me, I would ask to have a normal good night. The second time it changed was when I was around 14 or 15, and I told my dad I couldn't call him every single night because I was such a busy teenager, of course. I think it speaks volumes of my dad that he made this so routine and normal that I took it for granted until recent years. My dad helped to shape my beliefs, values, and political views. We had many a discussion about politics and social issues. He would challenge me and would consistently make me reflect on my worldviews. He was a man who stood for what was right no matter what, and often gave a voice to the voiceless. For many reasons, but for this in particular, I'm extremely proud of him. Since his diagnosis, my dad has been remarkable. What could have simply been an awful time was turned into such a special time, with my dad creating the space to make wonderful memories for so many people. I don't think there's anyone else who would be capable of taking such terrible news the way that he did. He just wanted to spread and be surrounded by love and positive vibrations. As previous people on the stage have mentioned, my dad had a great sense of humor. I think he was his funniest when he thought he was his funniest. Him laughing at his own joke was honestly what I found the most funny. This is certainly a trait I've taken from him, as many of my friends can attest to. Don't laugh too hard now. He used to love winding me up and trying to embarrass me. One of his longest running jokes was him telling me that I was his favourite son. For those who don't know, I'm his only son. Well, listen, Dad. While like myself, you also don't face tough competition, You most certainly are my favourite dad. I will love you and miss you forever.
Farewell, my friends. It was beautiful, as long as it lasted. The journey of my life. I have no regrets whatsoever said. The pain I'll leave behind, those dear hearts who love and care, and the strings pulling at the heart and soul. The strong arms that held me up when my own strength let me down. At the turning of my life, I came across good friends, friends who stood by me even when time raced me by. Farewell, farewell, my friends. I smile and bid you goodbye. No, shed no tears, for I need them not. All I need is your smile. If you feel sad, do think of me, for that's what I would like. And when you live in the hearts of those you love, remember then, you never die. I wish to thank everyone at Curtis Funeral Directors and the TLT Theatre for their hard work and compassion. Thank you to Michael's good friend Liam and neighbour Peter for the beautiful music, and to each of you that contributed to the ceremony here today. A special word of thanks to Margaret, who oversaw all of today's proceedings. The Reade family would like to thank you all for coming here today, for visiting to pay your respects St. Michael's death, sending messages, calls, flowers and cards. It has been a great source of comfort and support. For anyone who would like to offer condolences to the family, there will be an opportunity at the end of the final song, where a controlled queue formation will start to my right-hand side. Michael, no one here wants to bid you a final farewell, but we know that we must. Before we do, we want to warmly thank you for all of the wonderful times, the laughs, the smiles, and the joy that you have brought. Thank you for being you. We now ask Susan to recite a verse that was penned by Michael during his illness, and it was only found by Sandra on Michael's computer after his death. It will be read exactly as written. Thank you very much.
When the curtain falls, morning will follow. Mourn for me, but not too long. Shed a tear, toast my name and drink a beer. But dry your eye and listen for me in the bird's morning song. Make time for yourself, just for you. Look out a window, because that's all there is to do. Take a breath and cherish the air that fills your lungs with life. Live life. Choose to live with all of your might. Set real goals and go about achieving them. That can start by getting out of bed. I know you are sad, but my time is not your time. This is my time, and I am at one with this one thing I cannot share. Every day is a new day. Let each day bring pleasures, just the simple things. Hold each other close, be merry, and always, always sing. Love one another, and oh yeah, fuck the fascists.